Today we're going to be talking about the phylum or the class Aves. The word itself, Aves, is derived from the Latin word Aves, which is Latin for birds. Aves belong to the kingdom Animalia, meaning they're heterotrophic organisms that reproduce sexually and are capable of movement. To get into the specifics of taxonomy with Aves, they belong to the domain Eukarya, the kingdom Animalia, and the phylum Chordata. They're the largest class of chordates capable of flight, and they're one of only two groups that evolved to have four-chambered hearts. Now, you're probably wondering, how did they reproduce? Well, first, let's talk about courtship behavior. This can also be referred to as behavior to attract a mate. Almost every species in the Aves class displays some sort of courtship behavior when seeking a mate. For example, if you've ever seen birds of paradise from Papua New Guinea, the males push their feathers up to form a skirt before performing a dance for the females that watch up from above. Only the best of the dancers will get to mate and pass on that dance to their offspring. Bowerbirds are another prime example. They have some of the most elaborate courtship behavior in all of the animal kingdom. Bowerbirds build extravagant structures known as bowers out of twigs, bones, shells, and stones. They also decorate as well by filling their bowers with berries and flower petals for the female. And once a female lands in the bower and gets comfortable, the male begins his dance using a sequence of calls and movements, and if the female likes it, they'll mate. Once a bird has found a mate, how do they actually reproduce? Well, it's like any form of sexual reproduction. They reproduce by putting their cloacas together and exchanging the genetic information. The male's sperm goes through the female's cloaca and the eggs get fertilized. Now, once the eggs are fertilized inside the female, she'll lay amniotic hard-shelled eggs in the nest she's prepared and will incubate and care for them until they hatch and fledge the nest. The length of this process is dependent on the species of bird. For some birds, it takes 2 weeks, whereas some take a few months. Now, how do they obtain all the nutrients for all this breeding and dancing, you might ask? Well, Aves are all heterotrophic, meaning they need to acquire nutrients from external sources. Within the class Aves, there are carnivores, omnivores, and herbivores. I've chosen some basic examples of each one for the sake of simplicity. Herbivorous birds, such as the ostrich, depend on plants as their main source of nutrition. Omnivorous birds, such as crows and seagulls, will consume almost anything they find. This could be anywhere from seeds and leaves to fish and McDonald's. If you've ever been to a park, then you've probably seen seagulls scavenging dumpsters for food. Finally, carnivorous birds, the coolest ones in my opinion, such as falcons and owls, depend on flesh-bearing animals as their main source of nutrition. Many of them have become dangerously efficient in hunting their prey. For example, peregrine falcons can reach a dive speed of 390 kilometers an hour in order to kill their prey. Now, how would you determine if an animal you found belonged to the Aves class? One of, and probably the most well-known characteristics of Aves or birds, is that they have a beak or projecting jaws from their head. Another word for beak, basically. No other terrestrial vertebrates have a beak present. If you're still unsure, every bird on Earth has only 2 legs, and they're usually pretty slim compared to their body mass. Let's move on to some examples of birds. I'm almost positive that everybody could name at least 3 birds in 10 seconds if I asked you, but I'll go off and list a few more. Ducks, geese, falcons, kingfishers, penguins, hawks, hummingbirds, goatsuckers, cormorants, albatross, and woodpeckers. I'm sure there's a boatload of research about all the different kinds of birds, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna pick falcons and crows and explain why they're some of the coolest birds in the whole class. Crows, for example, are famous in the science community for their adaptability and intelligence. Crows are found in almost every region on Earth because of their intelligence and their ability to communicate with other crows. To be a scavenger, you gotta be smart enough to capitalize on patchy food sources. This is why crows have become so intelligent and have learned how to use strength in numbers when need be. Crows have coexisted along humans for centuries, in fact. During medieval times, crows were respected highly among the people because they cleaned up dead animals from the streets. Their keen intelligence and adaptability is what has aided crows in dominating the different regions of the earth because they're found all over the world. Falcons, on the other hand, are fascinating because of their body characteristics and how they're, as I mentioned earlier, dangerously efficient in hunting their prey. Falcons are found in many other regions around the world, with a majority of them living in North America and migrating elsewhere for breeding purposes. They're famous for having extremely sharp eyesight, like many other birds of prey. Falcons' eyes are said to be 8 times better than human eyesight. For comparison, they're able to see a baby rabbit from 2 kilometers away. Their body and wing shape, along with a strong respiratory and circulatory system, allows them to reach a max speed of 390 kilometers an hour when diving for prey on the ground. All in all, I think it's fair to say that falcons are one of the most elite apex predators in the entire animal kingdom. Now, how do birds contribute and help the environment, you might ask? They dance, they hunt, they eat garbage if you see them in the parks, but like, do they do anything for the environment? Well, predatory birds such as falcons and eagles and hawks help maintain an equal balance of predator and prey population levels. As apex predators, they reduce the stress on the lower level organisms by hunting higher ones. Smaller birds, such as hummingbirds, act as pollinators for plants and help plants to create more seeds. Herbivorous birds, such as the ostrich, eat 2 kilograms of plants each day, which helps the plants disperse their seeds across long distances. When birds die, they make great food for scavengers and decomposers. All in all, I think it's fair to say that aves are some of the coolest organisms in all of the animal kingdom, and they garner much more respect than we give them. Anyways, that's all for me. Thanks a lot for watching.